Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rich talking about the document-based question for the new AP exam format. For those of you that were able to join me on Friday, April the 24th for one of our online Zoom sessions, I've changed what we talked about. Over lunch, I was able to have a conversation with Mr. McDonald. His AP US students have written their first DBQ and he was grading it, and he noticed that almost nobody was able to finish, including his strong riders who typically do very well, in 45 minutes. So to adjust for the time frame that we have, we've decided to modify the original format we've given you a little bit. So even if you participate in one of the Zooms, this is different information than you would have heard from me just a couple hours ago since I recorded this. So here is what we're doing. So I'm going to start with the basics for everybody who wasn't able to join us, and then in a couple minutes I'll get to the specifics for the actual DBQ changes we have decided to make. So for those of you that were not able to join a Zoom, the DBQ is now 45 minutes. You get 10 minutes approximately to read and think and process, and 35 to write. It is covering time periods 1, 2, and 3. It is 5 documents instead of 7. The documents are supposedly shorter in length, perhaps a paragraph or so. And then of the 5 documents, 1 will be a visual, a chart, a graph, a photograph, a drawing, a painting, something like that. There is now a 10-point rubric. There is a lot of things that are similar, but again, the concern was that we weren't able to finish. So we're looking now, instead of a 5-paragraph structure, we're going to go to a 4-paragraph structure. Instead of X, A, B, Y, we are going to cut out B. We're going to go X, A, Y. Okay? So let's run through that. Things that are the same is that you are still going to have 3 question formats: compare, contrast, change continuity, cause or effect. You have to answer your question in one of those 3 ways. That is still something we expect to be the case. Your opening paragraph is not changing. It should still be context, relevant background information about the same subject and the same place or places, but what was that like before the time period? So if you're writing about 1200 to 1900, or in AP Euro 1450 to 1914, it would be something in the time period before that. So for my AP World students, it can be something from period 0 that is relevant to the concept you're discussing. We will still have a thesis. Again, the big change is we're cutting out B to save time. And also we have less documents, so it's unlikely there'll be multiple arguments you can find. So X, A, Y. So you're still going to have a counter argument, a lesser argument. You're going to have a singular primary argument, and then you're still going to have a Y statement where you say why you believe that to be true. Your second paragraph will be X. Your third paragraph will be A. If you have time, your fourth paragraph will be post-context. So let's go through these second and third paragraphs and discuss what you need to do. You're still trying to do 3 things: analyze documents, use outside evidence, and use HIP. Just the numbers are different, the point values are different. So for X, ideally you would have, you're still trying to do document analysis. Let me go through that. Let's go through the 3 things first. You're still trying to analyze documents, putting them in your own words to say how they answer the question. One of the new points on the 10-point rubric is a point for using the documents. This is essentially summarizing them to help answer the question. You're not saying why they matter or how it helps answer the question. You're just saying, here's what the document's saying. That is not something I wanted you to do. That is basically a middle ground. So think about 0 points is down here, analysis is here. A usage point would be kind of in the middle. Think of it like a JV team compared to a varsity. So if you do analysis like I've asked you to do, you are automatically going to get that usage point. It's a way to give kids that are struggling or didn't get many DBQ practices in before the school year ended in person to get a point for the middle ground. So if you're on the varsity team, you're not worried about making the JV team. So in other words, if you get document analysis like you've done all year long, you will automatically get credit for that usage point in the middle. So we're not worrying about that. We're not adding anything new to our essay to get credit for that. We still are doing document analysis, putting it in our own words to answer the question. If you do that for 2 documents, you're getting 1 point for that plus the usage point, so 2 points. If you do that for 4 of the 5 documents, you're getting 2 points for the analysis plus 1 for the usage, so a total of 3 points. That's a good deal. The second thing we have to do is do outside evidence. 1 piece of outside evidence, couple sentences, using it to answer the question, supporting the thesis, etc. That is going to be 1 point. A second example of outside evidence would give us 2 points. Okay, you've been doing that all year long, just adding a second example. HIP, historical situation, intended audience, point of view or bias and or purpose. Were you trying to understand the author's motivations? Why did they say what they say? How did they do so? How did who they were speaking to impact what they were saying? In the previous example, you had to use 3 examples to get 1 point. Now, in the new rubric for this 2020 exam, 1 example, 1 point, 2 examples, 2 points. And then potentially the last paragraph, the complex understanding the post-context. So context, thesis, the usage, which you're getting through analysis anyway, analyzing 2 documents, analyzing 4, 1 outside evidence, 2 outside evidence, 1 HIP, 2 HIP, complex understanding, 10 points total. Now, let's talk about the change for the paragraph structure. Opening paragraph, still context, thesis. Second paragraph, X argument. 1 to 2 documents, depending on what they say, would be for your counter arguments. So analysis of 1 to 2 documents would get you a counter argument. Ideally, you could take one of those documents and use HIP for it. Ideally, you could take an piece of outside evidence and add it into your X argument. The third paragraph would be the A argument, the main reason why you believe the change is more important or whatever your argument may be. Again, we're talking about 2 documents analyzed, maybe 3, if you can only get 1 document for the X statement. 1 example of HIP preferably, 1 example of outside evidence. Now you can adjust these. If you want to do both HIPs for documents in A, you could. Both HIPs for documents in X, you could. If you want to do both pieces of outside evidence to support the A argument, you could. But again, in an ideal situation, you would split them up. All right, you would split them up. So that's up to you. I realize this has just sprung upon you. We haven't really had a chance to talk about it much. But I also know what Mr. McDonald said, that many of his kids were struggling to finish, and it was a problem for them. So I'd like to go ahead and nip this in the bud. So spread the word to your friends. When you try to write this DBQ, please do so using this format to the best of your ability. If you have any questions, you can reach out. Again, I'm assigning this DBQ today, April the 24th. It is due in a week, Sunday, May the, whatever date that is. Let me make sure I have the right date. May the 3rd. But I would prefer if you try to finish the essay as soon as you can in the next couple days, because if I get 15, 20 DBQs a day, or even a bunch of them at the beginning, I can grade them faster. If I get 125 DBQs on Sunday, May 3rd, it's going to take me forever to grade them. There's less chance for you all to get feedback before we take our AP exam. So please try to write this in the next couple days. Do it through Google Docs, upload it to Google Classroom. I can give you a digital rubric, and then highlight your text and show you what you're doing or not doing. So that's the structure. That's a couple changes even since we spoke on Zoom this morning. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.